Hey fifth graders, it's Mrs. Trombley, and we are going to look at how to add mixed numbers and subtract mixed numbers with common denominators. So you should print off the attachment so you can have these notes in front of you. If you're not able to print, you can always solve these out on lined paper and add it to your spiral, that's fine. This first page is going to end up going on page 9 in your math spiral. So let's solve through some of these. We learned how to do this yesterday. And we said when you're adding fractions or mixed numbers with common denominators, that we can just add our whole numbers together. So 6 plus 12, nothing's changed about that. It's still 18. And then we can add our fractions together. So 5/9 plus 3/9, that would give me 8/9. And the only thing that we need to ask ourselves that's a little bit new is, do I have an improper fraction attached to this? Because there will be times when you are and you have to fix it up so it's in simplest form. The good news is this one is good to go. All right, for our next one, I have 4 7/8 plus 14 1/8. Common denominator, so we can go ahead and add them. The 4 plus 14, that gives us 18. And 7/8 plus 1/8 is 8/8. Now, even though this is equivalent to the correct answer, this wouldn't be the proper way to say your answer. This wouldn't be simplest form because 8/8 is equivalent to 1, right? So I'm going to change this 8/8 into 1. So there we go. So I have 18 and I have 1. So the 8/8 just became 1, right? And 18 plus 1 means 19. So your answer should be 19 for this one. For letter C, 7 3/5 plus 7 3/5. Well, 7 plus 7 is 14. And common denominator means I can just bring it over, and 3 plus 3 is 6. This is equivalent to the correct answer, but it's not actually the correct answer. 6/5 is improper. So instead of 14 and 6/5, we're going to change 6/5 into a mixed number. So remember, I can fit one group of 5/5 into 6/5, so that's my whole number. And there's one left over out of 5. That was our previous lesson that we did. So instead of 6/5, I have 14, plus I have another 1 1/5. 14 and 1 makes 15. So now I would have 15 and 1/5. All right, we're cruising along. Next one I see, common denominator. 12 plus 14 is what I'm going to add first, and 12 plus 14, you guessed it, is 26. And now I just need to add 9 plus 4. 9 plus 4 is 13, and my denominator doesn't change. You can't leave it like this. I know, I wish we could. We can't. It just wouldn't be proper, guys. 13 divided by 11 is how you can look at this. Or, oh, I can pull out one group of 11 11ths from 13 11ths. And from 11 to 13, there's 2 left out of 11. So 26 and 13 11ths is the same as 26 plus 1 and 2 11ths, which gives us 27 and 2 11ths. All right, we're to the last one on this page. So they're both 9ths. I can add them like normal. So 22 plus 38, I would actually pull 2 from the 22 and then have 40. And then 40 plus another 20 is 60. 7/9 plus 4/9, well, 7 plus 4 is 11, and my 9 stays the same. This 11/9 is not proper. I can make one group of 9/9 out of that, and there's 2 left to get to the 11. So 1 2/9. So this is going to be 60 plus the 1 2/9, which is 61 and 2/9. Right, in Schoology today, you have a versatile that's attached. You just have to solve out the problems, and I'll show you how to use the versatile kit to check them in class. But that's all like this. Now grab the other sheet on subtraction. We're going to switch gears just a little bit on you, and we're going to subtract mixed numbers with common denominators. Okay, now the thing about subtraction that's different than addition, the order that you subtract matters, right? So don't write this down. But if I said, what's 5 plus 3? Don't write this down. You would say, oh, that's 8. And if I said, what's 3 plus 5? You would say, oh, that's 8. If I ask you what 5 minus 3 is, you would know that's 2. But is 3 minus 5 2? No, if you have 3 and someone tries to take 5 away, you don't even have enough for them to take away 5, right? This would actually be -2, which you don't have to know that just yet. But what you do need to know is that order matters when you subtract, right? So you can't just switch the numbers around like you can when you do addition. Keep that in mind as we work through these. All right, so for letter A, when I look at this, I see 4 5/8 minus 2 1/8. I notice those denominators match, so we're good to go. When I look at my fractions, I can take 1 away from 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 5 minus 1 is 4, and I keep my denominator the same, and 4 minus 2 is 2. Now right now, I would take 2 4/8 from you, but 4/8, isn't that the same as a half? Yeah. So let's put down 2 1/2. That's the simplest form. Now when you look at letter B, I have 6 2/3 minus 4 2/3. Well, 2 minus 2 is 0, right? So I could say, well, 6 minus 4 is 2, and I have 2 0/3. But that would be kind of silly, because if you have 0 out of 3, don't you have 0? So I wouldn't put that out. That's not simplest form. You can just say 2. All right. In our next one, and this is where it gets good, I have 5 1/5 minus 1 3/5. When you look at these fractions, can you take 3 away from 1? No. So, and I can't just say, oh, well, that's 4, and 3 minus 1 is 4 2/5. You can't do that. You're not allowed to change the order when you subtract. 5 1/5 is what you start with, and we're supposed to take 1 3/5 away from that. So what I would suggest when you see a problem like this, where you can't take the 3 away from the 1, you can't subtract the second fraction from the first, my step 1 is I would rewrite this vertically. And I think you should trust me, and you should also do that. Please do that. Now, when you learn how to first subtract, and again, don't write this, but if you had like 272 minus 28, when you learn how to do this back in the day, can you take 8 away from 2? No. Didn't you have to borrow from the 7 and make it a 6? And then we added that 10 to the 2, so we have the 12 minus the 8, and then you can go about your business. You can borrow with fractions also. It just looks a little bit different. So right now, no, I can't take 3 away from 1. I want to borrow from this 5, so I'm going to make it 4, right? The thing is, if you just add 1 to this 1/5, then you're saying that you borrowed 1/5 from the 5. But you didn't. You borrowed 1 whole from the 5, right? So 1 whole, if we're dealing with fifths, means that you don't add 1/5, you would add 5/5. So again, when you borrow 1 from the whole number and you add it to your fraction over here, you're borrowing a whole. You don't just say 1/5, because 1/5 is not a whole, but 5/5 is. So really what you have now is this 4, and 1/5 plus 5/5 is 6/5, minus 1 3/5. And now we're in business, because I can do 6 minus 3. It's 3. My denominator doesn't change, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So 3 3/5. Then if you want to make sure you're right, you could add what you got to what you were subtracting here. 3 3/5 plus 1 3/5 would give me 3 plus 1, 4 6/5. And 6/5 is equal to 1 1/5. So that would be 5 1/5. Oh my goodness, that's what we start with. Yes, addition and subtraction are inverses. It's fantastic. Next one, can you take 4 away from 3? No. So we're going to set this up vertically. 12 3/10 minus 4 4/10. All right. Since I cannot take 4 away from 3, I am going to borrow. I'm going to borrow from this 12, and it's going to be 11. I just borrowed 1 whole, right? I didn't borrow 1/10, I borrowed 1 whole, which, because we have tenths here, means I just borrowed 10 tenths, because that's what 1 whole would be. So now what do I have? I have 11, and 3/10 plus 10 tenths is 13 tenths, minus 4 4/10. And now we're ready to roll. 13 minus 4 is 9. My denominator stays the same. And 11 minus 4 is 7. So 7 9/10 is what you should have. Right, letter E. I can't take 7/8 away from 5/8, so I'm going to set this up vertically. And please, set it up vertically. You make less errors when you do, I promise. I've been doing this a long time. All right, so because I can't take 7/8 away from 5/8, I'm going to borrow from this 20 and make it 19. I just borrowed 1 whole amount, right? 1 whole does not mean 1/8. 1 whole means 8/8. And I know it's eighths because that's my denominator for this. So now I have 19. And I have to do 8 plus 5, which is 13. And I have 19 and 13/8 minus 4 7/8. And now we can subtract, because I can take 7 away from 13. It's 6. My denominator stays, and 19 minus 4 is 15. Now 15 and 6/8 is okay, but just so you know, you could simplify this by dividing them both by 2 and give me a final answer of 15, and 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4, 15 and 3/4. This is a 5th grade now answer. This is a 5th grade in April answer. For letter F, so many people just want to say, oh, Miss Trombley, I got it. It's 5 1/3. But it's not. I have 7, and I'm taking 2 1/3 away. If I take 2 away from 7, that's 5. Now I'm going to take away another third. My answer can't be more than 5. So I know you could probably number talk your way through this one. This one we could use mental math with, but I want to show you why it's not 5 1/3. It's not because I'm taking 7 minus 2 1/3. Do you see this big empty space there? That means nothing. That would mean 0 minus 1/3. Can you take 1/3 away from nothing? No. So I would have to borrow from this 7. And I didn't just borrow 1/3. We're dealing with thirds, right? I borrowed 3/3. Now we can subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2, and there's my 3. And 6 minus 2 is 4, and we have 4 2/3. Ha-ha. All right, letter G, we're almost there. This is very similar to F. It's 9 minus 4 4/5. It's not 5 4/5. This means 9 minus 4 4/5. There is a big empty space there. I need something there. So I'm going to borrow from the 9, and it's 8. I borrowed 1 whole, right? Which if I'm dealing with fifths, 1 whole would be 5/5. 5/5 minus 4/5 is 1/5, and 8 minus 4 is 4. So 4 1/5 is what you should have. And isn't 4 1/5 plus 4 4/5 9? Yeah, because inverses, they matter. They're important. All right, letter H, last one. 8 1/3 minus 2/3. I bet you could number talk your way through this one as well by taking away 1/3 at a time. But I'll solve this out standard algorithm style, because that's what I've been doing, so why not? 8 1/3 minus 2/3. Can you take 2/3 away from 1/3? No. So I'm going to borrow from that 8. I'm borrowing 1 whole from the 8, right? 1 whole in terms of thirds means 3/3. So I have 7 4/3 minus 2/3. 4/3 minus 2/3 is 2/3. And 7 minus big empty space is just 7. So 7 2/3 is what you should have. All right. Thanks for watching. You're all set.